Coming up on Tech News Today, Apple TV rumor of the day, also a free ISP in your home, and who's winning the phone wars. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, December 12th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Ring Central. We do everything in the cloud. That's why we love our cloud-based phone system by Ring Central. Zero startup costs, and Ring Central is $20 a month per user. Try it now with a 30-day risk-free trial. Buy one desk phone and get a second phone free up to 20 phones. Call 800-543-9980 or visit ringcentral.com and use our promo code TWIT. And by Lantronix, maker of the X-Print server. Print from your iPad, iPhone, or any iOS device to virtually any printer. For more information, visit xprintserver.com/twit and enter the code HOLIDAY2012 to receive 20% off on your order. And by Squarespace, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website, blog, or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT12. And they recently launched a developer platform for complete code control. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Maya Zakhtar.
Yeah, there we go. I'm Jason Held.
Molly Wood is going to join us to discuss the stories of the day in just a few minutes, but let's kick things off with the top 10 stories of the day in the news feeds. Freedom Pop opened pre-orders for their in-home service today for $89. You get Freedom Pop Home Burst with 1 gigabyte a month of free data on the Clearwire WiMAX network. If you want to pay $10 a month, you can bump that up to 10 gigabytes a month. Users can still earn free data through referrals, and Freedom Pop also plans to launch open Wi-Fi sharing on its devices soon.
Pope Benedict XVI is now officially on Twitter. At 5:30 a.m. Eastern, the Pope tweeted a blessing and then answered several questions sent to him over the past 9 days. The @Pontifex account has over 800,000 followers and follows 7 other Twitter accounts. Who is influential enough to be followed by the Pope? Well, it turns out he's following himself. The 7 accounts belong to the Pope and offer his tweets in different languages, including German and French.
Everybody's greedy for Spectrum. Want more Spectrum? Give me more Spectrum. A coalition of technology companies, including Apple, Samsung, and Intel, have all drafted a letter to Congress saying, give us more Spectrum. The technology companies are urging both Democrats and Republicans, what about independents, in the House and Senate technology committees to consider auctioning some of the Spectrum currently used by federal agencies. So not just give me Spectrum, but give me your Spectrum now.
Stop the presses. The Wall Street Journal reports that Apple is working on, get this, a television set. Crazy, right? The Journal says that Apple's working with Foxconn and Sharp on several different prototypes. Want more details of this mythical television? It would have something called a large screen and high resolution.
Never happen.
I know.
Never gonna. The parade of Year in Review features continues. CNET has up its most influential tech people, trends, and news stories of the year. Number 1, Samsung versus Apple, of course. Also, Google's Zeitgeist looks at the top searches of the year. Whitney Houston was the top search after her death in the spring. Facebook also has their top trends up at facebookstories.com/2012. And if you're logged in, you can see what the algorithm thinks your top 20 moments of 2012 were at facebook.com/year in review.
Microsoft announced plans to expand distribution of its Surface RT tablet. The U.S. and Australia will be the first places where you can buy an RT tablet from a non-Microsoft store. The first retailer to be confirmed is Staples, which is selling the Surface starting today. Microsoft says it planned to expand the retail presence of the Surface and pushed up those plans based on interest from retailers.
The FBI says it has busted an alleged cybercrime ring accused of $850 million worth of losses. The attackers targeted Facebook users by using a botnet to steal financial and other personal information. Facebook cooperated in the investigation, which led to arrests in the United States, UK, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, Macedonia, New Zealand, and Peru.
Yahoo's keeping busy. Yesterday, it launched a revamped Yahoo Mail. Today, Yahoo introduced a new Flickr app for iPhone. You'll be able to take pictures and apply 16 filters to them using the new app. If filters aren't your thing, there's also photo editing features built in. If you just want to look at pretty pictures, the app also has discovery features so you can find your friends' photos or see what's being shot around you.
As expected, Facebook announced changes to its privacy policy that eliminates the Facebook voting requirement on new changes. Among the new features being implemented along with that are new controls called privacy shortcuts, which allow for quicker management of who can see what. Users also get more control of what appears on their activity log, and Facebook has also taken away the ability to hide yourself from Facebook search.
Official details about the Redbox Instant service is out. It will launch as a public beta in December with one free month. The streaming video service will cost $8 per month. The instant service will have movies from Warner Brothers, NBC Universal, Paramount, and more. There's also a $9 monthly plan that gives customers streaming and 4 DVD rentals at Redbox kiosks.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you in part by Ring Central. When we built the studio here, we didn't want to spend a lot of money running old-timey hardware like PBX stuff in the basement. We wanted to do as much stuff in the cloud as possible because we're always on the move. We're always all over the place. That's why when Russell, our IT guy, said to get a cloud-based phone system, we absolutely did it. We love Ring Central. Zero startup costs, no hardware to install or maintain. Ring Central allows us to easily customize all of our call handling. Our producers get voicemail in their email. You can get fax messages on your smartphone so that you can live in the future even if everyone you're working with doesn't. And Ring Central offers all-inclusive pricing as low as $20 a month per user. You can start right now with a 30-day risk-free trial, and they have a special offer for our listeners. When you buy one desk phone, get a second phone free up to 20 phones. So call this number, designated for our listeners, 800-543-9980. That's 800-543-9980. They want me to say it 3 times so you have no excuses. 800-543-9980. Or you can also go to ringcentral.com and use the promo code TWIT. That's ringcentral.com, promo code TWIT. And we thank them for their support of our phone system as well as Tech News Today. Joining us now to discuss the news of the day, host of Anchor Desk and the Buzz Report. Host of Always On and executive editor at CNET, Molly Wood. How's it going, Molly?
Super. It's so great to be here.
That's always good to have you.
I know. It's always just like a warm cup of hot cocoa to be here on the show.
With marshmallows shot into it by Jason Howell.
That's right.
That's how that works.
Don't
I
tick
think
me
it
off.
might be Cocoa Day. I feel like Twitter was telling me that. Although it's also 12-12-12. So it's a super auspicious day to be on the show. And just generally, I'm hoping great things will happen.
We will never have another 12-12-12 until 30-12.
Plus, I think it's the last triple of the century.
Right. Exactly.
Unless they actually pass that measure to have a 13th month, which I'm hoping happens.
You're supporting.
I am all for that.
A 13th month is probably more likely than an Apple TV, but what's the latest for the Wall Street Journal?
All right, well, there's a long article in the Wall Street Journal, and I'm actually going to distill it down to the actual news. And I've said this before. Wall Street Journal is saying that Apple's working with Honhai, that's Foxconn, and Sharp to test several TV set designs. And then one of the sources says it isn't a formal project yet. It is still in the early stage of testing. So that's the entire news that was in Wall Street Journal, which is
all right, well, that's it. Thanks, everybody.
People were talking about this everywhere. More of the same is also in the same article saying Apple's working on prototypes for years. They've been talking to cable operators about building a box to carry live TV. Now, Molly, do you want to talk about the TV or the fact this story is getting lots of buzz when there's so very little news in this?
Well, that's almost too easy to talk about, right? Because it is Apple. So it doesn't really matter if there's news. If there's even a whiff of news, if there's even the faintest whiff of news, like leftover BO in a conference room or something, then we will turn it into a story. But I'm with Tom. I think that the odds of them actually doing a TV are slim to none. And so, frankly, I kind of wish that this fake news story would just go away.
I mean, as you pointed out, Apple working on a prototype is significant outside of Apple. They're working on prototypes inside Apple all the time. It does mean that they're a little farther down the road, but it doesn't mean they'll ever come out with it. Just because they went to Honhai and said, hey, how much would it cost to make this? Can we put something together? They may look at it and say, oh, it's a little bit expensive and we can't strike any content deals anyway, so forget about it.
Every time I see these stories, I keep thinking about the fact they could be doing larger iMacs. They could do larger anything. There's no reason to say it's going to be a TV. The iMacs got larger and larger and larger. Like I think it was 27 inches. They used to have cinema displays up to 30, and now those are gone. Why would it be crazy for Apple to just have a really large display at some point?
Well, I don't know about them making like a 60. I mean, they're talking about sort of 60-inch displays or something, right? But the interesting thing is that in amongst this very, very faint whiff of news, there's no suggestion that they have gone so far as to even build a prototype. I mean, we may literally be talking about an RFP in which they said, hey, how much do you think it would cost to make a 60-inch Apple TV? Okay, thanks. Bye.
Wow, that much? Yeah. All right. We'll call you.
Oh, I bet people aren't going to buy that because they're kind of price conscious right now. And more importantly, we wouldn't want to do a TV unless we had 50 million different content deals, and we can't really make those. So never, thanks for playing.
Although actually the price conscious thing doesn't ever seem to matter to Apple.
Yeah, but television's so low, they're low margin anyway, and the other manufacturers have been losing money on forever. So the idea that Apple would want to go into a market that has low margins just doesn't seem like Apple anyway. Like a lot of this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they'll jack up the price anyway just to make it Apple-y.
It's gonna be like $2,000 for like the 30-inch model, which only has.
I think you're right, Ayaz. I think the idea of them putting Apple TV software into like an iMac kind of situation or maybe a larger screen is possible, but I'm still with you, Molly, as far as like I just don't see this coming anytime soon. It smells like digital camera to me.
Yes, exactly. The thing that the white whale of Apple products, the unicorn actually that everybody thought they would eventually do. And I do feel like a TV is the same way. And I don't think that a TV is necessary. I think that you could argue that a television is too old, that's antiquated tech. That if Apple wants to do a true media hub, they're very close with an iMac. I mean, I recently seriously considered buying a Mac Mini with a 27-inch cinema display as my kind of bedroom media setup, my bedroom TV. The only reason I didn't is because there's not a damn Blu-ray drive in the Mac Mini, and I do, in fact, occasionally want to watch really good-looking Blu-ray discs. But a TV just feels like, why would you make that? It's like making a radio.
Yeah, and what we got instead of the digital camera was the iPhone. Apple did a camera. They just did it in the iPhone. So the analogy could work here where it's like Apple will do a TV-ish service. They already are. It's just not going to be a television that you hang on the wall. That just seems kind of antiquated. Let's talk about free internet. Freedom Pop is the Zenstrom, one of the co-founders of Skype-backed venture, which has been giving you a hotspot that you pay for. You buy the hotspot, and then you get the service for free up to a certain amount of megabytes. I think it's 500 megabytes a month. Well, now, for $89, you can get a WiMAX from Clearwire device that goes in your house. So it's a little beefed up. It has a little better ability to pull in a signal. So they say you can get 9 to 12 megabits per second out of it. And they're only going to offer it to people who live in an area where it will be faster than DSL. DSL is faster the closer you are to the source. So they're saying we're trying to compete where DSL is slower, and you get it for free. You get a gigabyte of data for free a month, or you can pay $10 a month for 10 gigabytes. Is this compelling? Who's going to do this, Molly?
To me, the geographical restriction seems to be probably the biggest problem. I mean, as soon as you say they are only going to offer it in places where it can be faster than DSL, you go, okay, well, 37 people are going to get this, so that's pretty exciting. And they can't use very much data. I mean, I think anything that starts to disrupt the traditional ISP model is promising, but to me, the most potential for disruption comes actually on the heels of the Spectrum story that you talked about, because I think 4G LTE has the potential to be the best sort of disruptive broadband model of them all.
And that may be what Freedom Pop is positioning themselves for. They intend to switch to LTE when Clearwire, which, by the way, Clearwire may get bought out by Sprint anyway, but Clearwire and Sprint are both going to switch from WiMAX to LTE. So if Freedom Pop is saying, we're just trying to build our customer base, find out what works, what doesn't, in anticipation of LTE, that could change things a lot. Because you're right, Molly. When you say, I'm only going to offer it in places where DSL is slower, and I can only offer it in places where we have good Clearwire coverage, suddenly that's a very tiny slice.
It does sound like, conceptually, yes. I think that wireless broadband is probably the only way to really solve the last mile problem and to get, especially in America. And it has a ton of potential, but the infrastructure still, Freedom Pop is going to be a trailblazer, but it's possible that they're a little too early.
Are they juiced or Skype?
They're juiced. All right.
I hope they're not juiced because the pricing structure I think is more intriguing. Even though it's got this ton of limitations, getting the gigabyte for free a month or $10 a month for 10 gigabytes. If you do have this option, this is really, really cheap. You're only spending $90 for the hardware. You're getting this thing for $10 a month. I can't think of any other competing service that offers that kind of speed at that price. Because this idea of it costs a lot. We have to have data caps on things. Well, why is this so cheap? Why can't I just use this anywhere I go? I'm intrigued by the pricing structure more than anything.
Yeah, and this version, this, what do they call it? The Freedom Pop hotspot or in-home whatever. It has Ethernet. on it. So you bring it in your house, and then you can plug it in just the way you would plug into Ethernet. You're still wireless on the outside, though, so you're going to have your mileage may vary here. But
it's also, again, I mean, I think it's worth mentioning 1 gigabyte of data. Like that's lower than your lowest data plan on your phone.
For free, 1 gigabyte.
Free.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you can jump that up if you're one of those annoying people that gets all your friends to sign up.
Well, just buy 10 of them.
True.
Just buy
just like-
10 of
You just buy 10 of them, right? And you go, I'm going to switch my spot.
Right, and then get all your friends to sign up who live in an area where this is faster than DSL, but then they also have a good clear wireless. Like, okay, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's obviously it's not a lock right now, but I think the pricing structure is intriguing, and I think they are positioned for something interesting when LTE gets more widely available for them. The question is, can they make it that long, right?
Exactly, and I hope they do. Like this market is so ripe for disruption because there's not enough competition. The pricing is insane. The data caps are getting smaller, and the service isn't very good. Nobody is getting what they're paying for in terms of the broadband service that they pay for. So I am all for anybody who can disrupt that traditional ISP model. And like you said, it's just a matter of sort of can they scrape by until they make the transition to LTE and have enough infrastructure to be competitive.
Tiny side note to that, Eric Schmidt on stage just an hour ago said that Google plans to roll out Google Fiber in other markets, that this is a business that they're going to get into. So,
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah, exactly. He's talking about disrupting a market. Let's move on to another story, which I find very intriguing in light of the fact that Instagram no longer allows Twitter to embed the photos in the Twitter stream.
So now we got a new Flickr app for iPhone. Apparently, it borrows a lot from the Android app. And we've got it on AirPlay over here if you want to actually take a look at what it looks like if you haven't tried it. So you can see right now in portrait, it's kind of tiny. It only runs on iPhone, not on iPad yet. It's when you start it up, you get discovery, right? You can see contacts and groups. So if you just want to look around, you have that option. So instead of just going to Flickr and not seeing anything, well, you'll have options here. You go into landscape, when you pick a photo, it'll actually go full screen. But that's the only time it'll actually go into landscape, as far as I could tell. It's got interesting photos, nearby photos, see who's doing what. But of course, you got to have your filters. You got to have a camera. We're going to take a picture of Jason's head over there.
Well, it's somewhere over there behind.
There we go. We'll zoom in. He's got a digital zoom.
Hold on.
And there we go. He's got a
yellow gun.
He's
all
got
right,
a
great.
pose.
Okay.
Terrific. He's going to fire at me. A nice blurry shot. And we've got our 16 filters because you need to have your filters.
Right? Okay, so there's its Instagramishness.
Let's say I got toucan, flamingo. They're all
I'm
named after
good.
animals right there. I think you look better as orca. How about that? That's
Thank
great.
you.
Classic.
All right. There's also, if you don't, I lost my network connection. Hit next. I can title it and everything, but there's also lots of advanced options. I kind of like that as a user. You can tag everything right here. And there's a really powerful editor when it comes to doing your photos if you want that as well. It's all powered by Aviary. It's Yahoo's second app in 2 days. They came out with Yahoo Mail yesterday. New Flickr finally. I believe when Marissa Meyer took over, people were having this big push to make Flickr awesome again. Is this the beginning of a comeback for Flickr, Molly, or is this just this is just kind of a nice little thing?
Well, it's really interesting because I feel like I now have 50 million ways to make my photos look hipper, but I still have not found the right place to store my photos. The place that that I feel is the easiest to share, the easiest to download. I go back and forth between Facebook and Picasa, but the problem with Flickr trying to mount a comeback with a pretty late app is that I abandoned Flickr about 3 years ago. So it would require me to start using it all over again. So for the few existing Flickr users who remain, and I know they are passionate, I think this is great. I'm sure they're thrilled, but it's hard to get back that audience once you have lost them. And I think those users may have migrated somewhere else.
But what I'm looking at this as, and I may be in a minority here, I use Instagram in order to put photos on Twitter. And the reason I do that is because Instagram works really easily, and it was embedded into Twitter, and it gave me the Instagram followers too, which Instagram has a cool community. Right. Now that they have said, oh, well, we're not going to allow Twitter to show the photo, the last photo I took to put on Twitter, I took it in the Twitter app because I'm like, well, I want it to show up in the stream. I don't want people to have to click through. I liked Flickr, and like you, I sort of just stopped using it. And right now I'm looking for a good photo app that I could use that is integrated into Twitter. Guess who makes the Twitter photo upload? Aviary. Guess who's helping Flickr here? Aviary. This is integrated. This will show up in Twitter, and it will be embedded in a card.
But then, like, will it be forever, though? Will it? Can we guarantee that it always? I mean, I can't even believe we're now to the point where we're just going to have this constant stress and anxiety about whether my photo service is going to show up as a Twitter card. Because now that Twitter has their own, are they going to get in a big, huge fight with Yahoo over Flickr at some point, and then support will disappear? I mean,
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I'm less worried about forever with Twitter, but yeah, I know a lot of people are like you. They want a collection site.
What I really want is a collection site, and I want Flickr to be and to have been a better collection site. I don't know that now that I do use Instagram and or Flickr, or Twitter rather, I don't know if I need Flickr to come along and be my cool hipstamatic filter posting tool.
See, I think the real hook to me in the whole Flickr app is just the amount of options in the advanced tab. Because a lot of those other things are like, hey, look, I have this really cool picture, and yeah, I can put a filter on it. And that I think is this kind of like gateway drug of like, oh yeah, we can do filters. We have that. Everybody can calm down. But we can do more things with the photo editing built into that. I think for Yahoo to do that at this point is pretty smart because they're not just introducing yet another filter app. They're doing an app with some real powerful tools in there.
Yeah. All right,
I want to see
go ahead.
Flickr back. I hope it does. I mean, I agree. I think there are some powerful tools in this app. I'm not sure we need yet another photo posting tool, but maybe we do because everybody really likes to do that.
Yeah.
I do.
I do too. But then maybe Twitter having it embedded in Twitter app is all you need. Who knows? Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Xprint Server from Lantronix. Wireless printing from your iPad, iPhone, or iPod Touch, whether you're at the home or office. If you do need to print from iOS, if you got an AirPrint server, you're set, right? But how many people have an AirPrint enabled printer? There are a bunch out there, but people don't, people try not to have to buy printers all the time. So if you already have a printer, check out Lantronix. The Xprint server enables wireless printing from your iPad, your iPhone, your iPod Touch, and eliminates the need to print through apps. You don't have to have some kind of app installed with this, even if you did have an AirPrint enabled. You don't have to email yourself documents. It works with your USB printer. It works with your network printer. It's the printer you already own, and it's wired or wireless. Supports more than 4,000 top brand network printers. It's easy to use. As I mentioned, I've tried it, and I was skeptical that it was going to work because it's printers and it's network. But I plugged it in, and it worked the first time. And it's dead simple. On the iPad, you just choose print. It's already in the menu. Home edition is $99, and that works with up to 8 USB and 2 network printers. The Office edition is $199 and supports up to 8 USB and unlimited network of printers. It allows your USB printers to be shared with users all over the network. So not only does it enable iOS printing, but it turns your USB printer into a network printer. Great for your home, great for your office, even works with large multifunction printers. So check it out. Go to xprintserver.com/twit for more information and to buy. And we've got a special offer for the month of December. Use the code HOLIDAY2012 and receive 20% off on your order. Remember, visit xprintserver.com/twit and at checkout, enter the code HOLIDAY2012. We thank Lantronix for their support of Tech News Today. So Microsoft's criticism has been that the Surface is not available everywhere. You have to go to a Microsoft store. You have to buy it online. That's changing now.
That's changing starting today. Now, this was rumored last week. Microsoft's expanding its distribution of Surface tablets. U.S. and Australia are going to have more retail stores with the RT. Now, Microsoft's press release was kind of curious. It didn't name any stores, and then they were asked by Mary Jo Foley directly which stores. They declined to comment. So oddly enough, Staples had their own press release saying, yeah, we're carrying the RT starting today, and Best Buy has the RT on its site today. It says coming soon, at least when I checked it this morning. And in the press release, Microsoft said, this is from Steve Schuler, corporate vice president, our plan has been to expand the retail presence of Surface after the first of the year. Based on interest from retailers, we are giving them the option to carry Surface with Windows RT even earlier. So it looks like Microsoft's trying to say, yeah, we planned to do this the whole time, although I don't remember hearing anything about this. I don't know, we've been covering tech news pretty much all year. I didn't notice that at all. Microsoft's pushed up its expansion of RT distribution. Is this finally going to tick off the OEMs? Because, I mean, they entered the field. Now they're like, we're going to even come out even earlier. Molly, what do you think?
I can't, honestly, this story just gives me the giggles. Microsoft is breaking my heart. Get it together, Microsoft. We're kind of too embarrassed to say that we're going to sell it at Staples, but we are. No, and will it? I don't even know. Do OEMs want to be developing with Microsoft anymore? I'm sure that it will frustrate them, but I don't think that it needs to frustrate them too badly, because it's not like the Surface is going to sell like hotcakes out of Staples or Best Buy or Target or wherever it ends up. It's just, the whole thing feels, the entire launch, the Windows 8 launch, the RT thing, and then the different version that's coming later just feels like such a tragically familiar Microsoft mess, especially when you use the tablet.
Well, and my theory up until this point was what Microsoft's doing is what they said they were going to do, which is make a tablet that is showing what a tablet should be like and showing what it can be. And they're only doing it in the Microsoft stores because they want to cooperate with the OEMs. And
Right.
the OEMs are going to make other RT-based tablets and sell them in retail outlets, and then everybody's happy. So what this shows me is that either they changed their mind or that's not what they were planning to do, and that what they're trying to do is inch into becoming Apple, where they are a direct-to-the-consumer company. And the one thing that I think they definitely have right is they cannot continue their business forever on the backs of Windows. They can continue it for a long time, but that's how you turn into Palm or HP, where you're like, oh, crap, the thing we banked on is starting to decline and we don't have another option. So Microsoft is desperately scrambling for another option, but they look like they really don't have a plan that they're sticking to. They're sort of adapting to conditions on the ground as they change. Oh, we're not selling enough Surface tablets. I guess we should go ahead and push them into retail, even if it does piss off our OEMs. Might as well do that now. Maybe that's smart, Ayaz. Adapting to change is a good thing, right?
Maybe. I'm just thinking, like, everything Microsoft's been doing for the past couple of months has confused me a bit. Like, okay, so they're Nokia's best buddy, but then they start teaming up with HTC. Then they're going to have their own device for tablets, and then they're only going to sell it in their own stores. We'll protect our partners. Oh, our partners are really happy. Let's put it out in stores. None of this makes it. It doesn't add up at all. I don't know if it was like, okay, Sanofsky wanted one thing when Windows 8 was around.
That's
now
a
that
good
he's
point.
gone, everyone's like, okay, let's go back to our original plan now that this guy's gone. But they need to have some kind of unified concept of what are you doing? Just tell everybody. Otherwise, I don't know how your partners will continue to do business with you if this is the case. Oh, yeah, we got your back, and now we're going to stab you. It's like,
Well,
you gotta
I
do
don't think that
something.
Microsoft, I'm not sure that Microsoft ever has particularly cared about pissing off their OEMs. They do that all the time. They have done that. You know, they've legendarily done that. You can bring back there's that old Simpsons reference, Bill Gates, buy 'em out, boys. That's what they do, and they could always get away with it because they were so dominant. So I think that it is in their nature to just sort of adapt and do a new thing and figure the OEMs will come along because we're Windows. And so some of this feels like it smacks of that old behavior where they don't really care if they change plans or change their stride midstream because they figured they're dominant and their partners will be behind them. What they maybe have not realized is that they're not dominant and that they are not good at pulling off the Apple model. So you could piss off your OEMs all you want if you do a really great job with your stores, with your distribution, with your hardware, with your software. But all of those pieces aren't there. And so if you don't have customer support, you don't have a particularly A-level product, and you don't have OEM support, you have a big freaking disaster, which is kind of what it feels like. And I mean, honestly, I feel like we in the tech press, I'm starting to look at Microsoft as like a beautiful disaster, like I want them to be okay, but I just don't know if we can help them anymore.
I don't feel that negative about Microsoft. I feel like they've been doing a lot of things right, but they're never doing them right all the way to the end, except maybe with the Xbox. The Xbox is the one area where I think they're perking along very well. But the Surface, I'm like, right idea, wrong execution. At least that's what it looks like so far.
Yeah, don't forget, Windows 8's the no compromise everything. It just seems everything's a bit compromised.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of compromise, there is no compromise with Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt speaks his mind. Eric Schmidt is a force to be reckoned with. And in an interview with Bloomberg, he gave the typical sort of stats about what's going on. 1.3 million Android devices a day. IDC's Q3 market share showed Android at 72%, so he's hooting about that. But here's the thing that's got everybody talking today. He said, this is a huge platform change. This is the scale of 20 years ago. Microsoft versus Apple. We're winning that war pretty clearly now. Is this really the PC war all over again, IS?
It looks like it. I mean, for normal people, phones, I say this all the time now. It sounds like it should be on a soundboard. For normal people, their phones are their computers. And the thing is, if they're choosing Android phones and there's a vast majority of people using those and there's a ton of selection, well, this is the device of choice. These are their personal computers. That's the weird thing, I think. The idea that it's Microsoft and Apple again, I mean, that was kind of I want to say this, almost a fringe thing. I mean, it was only a nerd thing that we had computers. Now that everybody has them, they must be loving being the Microsoft of today.
I don't know that this is the same though. I mean, there's definitely an analog, right? Android is available for people to put on multiple types of phones, just like Windows was available for multiple PCs. iOS is controlled by Apple, the way OS 10 was, or the Mac OS was controlled by Apple. But Molly, there's a lot of differences, right? I mean, the phone space requires contracts. Android is free. Google's not making money off of people installing Android. They're making money secondarily off of the support they provide at the ads they can sell against it.
Yeah, and Google is not. What I think is very interesting about his comment is that he is positioning Google as a platform company and not a search company, and that to me was really striking. What he was saying is we are competing as a platform, so as an ecosystem, as a company that brings together multiple businesses to be part of your entire hardware experience. I mean, I think to say that they're successful on the scale of Microsoft, for one thing, first of all, they're going to have to crack tablets, because it's one thing to sell more Android phones, but like you said, Android is free. So a lot of the Android phones that they're selling don't really have very much to do with Google and are frankly kind of crappy. So it's not, to tout pure numbers and market share in that context is a little bit disingenuous, because back when it was just Microsoft and Apple, you were talking about a pure play operating system platform experience that was not pretty much untouched. I mean, Microsoft obviously had OEMs. There was a little more customization, but that customization all happened on the hardware side, not with sort of a freely. It was, not like with Linux,
And we do have many more operating systems that may not be popular, but they're viable. BlackBerry OS is still viable. Windows Phone is still viable. So that in that case, what did we have back in the PC platform days of the late 80s? OS2 Warp.
Yeah. I mean, I
Unix.
for the mainstream, for the majority of people, he's absolutely right to describe it as a two-horse race right now. But I think that Windows Mobile is Windows Phone. I keep calling it Windows Mobile, and then I get all this email about it. But they changed it. It's not my fault. They're the ones that changed it.
Metro Tiles, ha.
BlackBerry, I don't think they're still that viable. I think Windows Phone absolutely is, though, and they have a really powerful distribution model. And frankly, there are a lot of iPhone buyers that I think would be very happy with Windows Phone. So it's not over yet. I think it's accurate for him, though, to describe it as that big of a platform war, except that it is limited to phones.
And well, tablets, I think the jury's out, right? We don't know where that's going to go yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Currently, it is limited to phones, unless they can figure out a way to sell more tablets. And, the Nexus 10 and the Nexus 7 are both really good tablets, very good Trojan horses. It's just that right now it's going to be really hard to convince people that they want a tablet that's not an iPad.
I think it is. I think you're right in saying that it's generally applicable that what we've got here is a mostly two-horse race that seems to be dominated by one side that's more open, but the number two is very successful because that's the way they want to do it, and that applies to both of these. I think there's a lot of different dynamics underneath, so maybe trying to project how this is going to go won't end up being the same as the way Windows and Mac OS went. But
I agree. And I think it's easy to really parse a comment like that. And I think that what he's really saying is very true. At this exact moment in time, for today, what has transpired has sort of a direct parallel to Apple versus Microsoft 20 years ago.
Yeah. Is that a good thing for Google, though?
Well, I mean,
for today it is.
Exactly. For today it is, but I've had conversations recently about how Google's becoming Microsoft, and that may not be such a good thing for them. Yeah. And it suggests mission creep to say we're no longer a search company, we're a platform company.
Let's finish up with some more years in review, starting with CNET's most influential tech trends, stories, people, and tech people trends and news stories of 2012. Who's putting this together? This is pretty cool looking.
We had the most fun with this. It was just a group of editors that got on the phone for a couple hours, and we just argued about which story should go where.
Oh, you should have recorded that. That sounds awesome.
I know, it would have been like the best podcast ever. It was really, I think, one of the more fun meetings that I've ever been a part of, because we were arguing about which gadgets, and I wish we had kept a list of the stuff that we killed, you know?
Yeah.
The stuff where we're just like, nah, nobody cares. The heartbreaking stuff, like the like Sean Fanning's AirPlay or whatever.
Right.
Airtime, I think it's called.
Well, the list I think is really good. I mean, I'm not looking at these and thinking that any of these are like something that I would have left off. You're talking about SOPA legislation, Marissa Mayer, Windows 8, new fronts in the tech wars, which we were just talking about with phones and tablets. Samsung Galaxy S3 is your number 6, though. I know a lot of people are taking issue with that. They
definitely are, and that's I think a really good point of debate, is which of these phones proved to be more significant. I think, though, that the Galaxy S3 was unquestionably the most significant phone of the year, because it is sort of the first phone that really took the iPhone down a peg. I mean, it absolutely did. To the balls on Samsung to put out a commercial that basically suggested that the iPhone was for like boring old people and the cool kids were buying S3s, I think was really a big shift in the conversation. And the S3 did start to outsell iPhone just as that one phone. It became a hero phone. So
in our previous discussions analogy, does that make Samsung IBM?
I guess so. Yeah, Samsung is Big Blue. And they're rocking Windows 95.
So did IBM skin heavily Windows? I don't remember them doing that. I mean, that Samsung's success, a lot of it is because they've changed.
The analogy will break down if you look
I'm just
too
curious.
closely. But,
I know, totally.
Yeah. I was surprised at how well Samsung pulled its marketing together to have it called the Galaxy S3 on every carrier.
Thank God.
Because the S2 was like 4 or 5 different names, and each one had 4 or 5 words attached to it. This is the kind of thing where they could have an advertising pitch where they're going Galaxy S3. You only have to ask for it by that name instead of going the Skyrocket Max, whatever the heck they were called when it was the S2. But the S3 was a big push, and Samsung was, I think, pretty gutsy to do that.
And it was a global push, which I think is partly why the sales went so well. And frankly, it's a really good phone. I carry both. I carry an S3 and an iPhone 5, and I know several people who do the same. I feel like it's that hard to choose, that if you're like a hardcore nerd or you have one for business and one for personal, those are the two.
Now, what's interesting is looking at the Google Zeitgeist year-end, which they've broken down by the trends of different topic levels as well. This isn't just the total number of searches, mind you. They took more than 1 trillion queries and then factored in data from Google Trends, other tools, and excluded spam and repeat queries to get these rankings. But in consumer electronics, iPad 3, number 1, Samsung Galaxy S3, number 2. So your number 1 tablet and your number 1 phone are leading the searches for consumer electronics here.
I'm looking at the TV trends, and I don't recognize any of these.
Big Brother Brazil is number 1. There's a lot of Brazilian. Avenida Brasil is number 2. Then here comes Honey Boo Boo.
Like, I only just recently found out about this Honey Boo Boo thing. I had no idea what this was about.
God help us all. One thing that's really interesting, back to this consumer electronics thing, though, because like Honey Boo Boo, heaven preserve us, there is no iPhone on this list. In the trending consumer electronics. In
that top 10, there is a Nokia Lumia 920.
Yeah.
There is a Galaxy Note 2, but there is no iPhone. You're right.
No iPhone on this list.
Now, that doesn't mean it's not successful. Obviously, they're selling a lot of iPhones. It means the iPhone's become a commodity. It's not a cool thing anymore. It's just a thing.
It's not quite as sexy. I got to say, at least, I don't know what the next one's going to be, but my personal opinion about iPhone is that it peaked with 4S. And if I could go back to that phone, I would.
I didn't switch from the 4 to the 4S, so I can't really compare. But the 5 is a big improvement over the 4. So maybe you're right. If I'd had a 4S, I might feel the same way.
Loved it.
And then finally, of course, Facebook has their facebookstories.com/2012. This is somewhat similar to Twitter, a little bit similar to the Google Zeitgeist. They're basically taking trends of what people talked about on Facebook. Their top technology stories, of course, Instagram, because they bought Instagram. So everybody on Facebook was talking about what was going to happen when Facebook got Instagram. But one of the things I thought was interesting is they are trying to take their timeline feature and make a personal year in review. So the first thing you see when you go to facebookstories.com/2012 is a link to facebook.com/year in review, which shows a collage of pictures from your past year and then your top 20 biggest moments from your timeline. Did you guys try this? Either
Yes,
one?
and I loved it.
Yeah?
I totally did. This is exactly what I want Facebook to be. This is the only reason that I maintain a private Facebook with not that many people. And it's, like kid pictures and wedding stuff and somebody who had a baby and whatever. And I loved my personalized timeline. And also I had a great year.
I didn't realize how good my year was until I saw the collage.
The
Looked like
collage,
fun.
yeah. I had a birthday that was kind of neat, and I had a video catalog for some reason.
Your birthday was one of my top 20 moments.
That's great. I don't know why.
I don't know either.
Because there was pie involved. There's always pie involved.
That makes it, yeah.
And we won an award this year. Yeah, I guess we did have a good year.
I liked the photo collage. The top 20 moments was a little spotty for me, maybe because I just don't use Facebook that much. Leo getting a new battery at CES on January 4th was the first of the top 20 moments.
Not so much.
Doesn't seem
mine
that significant.
did a really good job. It had like my brother's wedding in there. It did have a really big photo of a Negroni, a cocktail. So apparently it thinks that I went out for drinks a lot.
Well, it was an incredibly tasty cocktail apparently.
But it did, it had the half marathon. It had like a trip to Amsterdam. I mean, it pulled, pretty generally speaking, the green lighting of the show. It pulled pretty well actually, and especially considering that some of the things it pulled were not photo related. They were just a post. Like it just posted, my show was greenlit for a June launch.
Man, you did have a heck of a year. You ran a half marathon. That's crazy.
You pulled that.
Awesome,
That's
dude.
pretty good at the top of the year.
Helicopter. Yeah, I ran a half marathon. My brother, I got a niece.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know how I'm in the top 2012, you guys. It was
Good
amazing.
times. All right. And I did want to say that the Google video of the past year I felt was much better than the Twitter video. We don't have to play it, Jason. Don't scramble. But go take a look at it if you get a chance. That Google Zeitgeist video they did a great job on. Let's move on to the
Randomizer.
So the official Tardis PC case allows you to put your PC into a TARDIS. The British desktop company Scan teamed up with the BBC to license the imagery and produce a faithful PC case complete with a broken chameleon circuit. Those of you who know Doctor Who, you know what that means. Base model comes with a 3.1 gigahertz Pentium G2120, but you can swap that out for up to a 3.1 gigahertz Core i7, and it'll start at 936 pounds, which is about $1,508 US. And it travels in space and time.
And Virgil in the chat room said it's way bigger on the inside.
Right. Yeah. So much space for components.
Just chucking giant graphics cards in there all day long.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows that everything's like a commodity at this point, if this is what you're doing to differentiate your PC.
Only product ships within the EU right now, so Europeans get it first. We're hoping it'll come to States.
This would be an awesome home theater PC. You'd be proud to have that out there.
That's true.
I'm serious.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
Instead
good.
of-
That's a good one.
Instead of having these ugly boxes, do this.
Absolutely. All right, final sponsor announcement. Thanks to Squarespace, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog for their continuing support of Tech News Today. Squarespace gives you and your website users the best mobile experience. They develop new templates with mobile-ready designs, means your site automatically restructures to look great on any brand smartphone, tablet, or computer. When you add an image to your site, 7 different versions are created, so the correct size loads for the device, and your site looks professionally designed no matter how it's viewed. People are on PCs, they're on laptops, they're on tablets, they're on phones. It doesn't matter. And you don't have to spend a lot of sweat making your site. It has beautiful templates with 100% drag and drop functionality for fast and easy to use tools, plus better social media integration. Integrates all your website needs: domains, design, development, hosting, customer support. Don't take my word for it. Go try it out yourself. For a free trial, go to squarespace.com. Sign up for a free account. You don't have to give them a credit card. Just try it out. Start building your website. If you decide to purchase it, use offer code TNT12 and get 10% off your first purchase on new accounts. That's squarespace.com. Use the offer code TNT12. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. If Sarah were here, I would ask her what's on the calendar. But she's on vacation this week, so I'm just going to answer myself. On this day in 1991, Paul Kuhns set up the first website in North America. It searched particle physics literature at Stanford. Good job, Slack. Also, happy birthday to Tony Hsieh, CEO of Zappos, turned 39 today. So the big 4.0 coming in a year, Tony. And Microsoft's iOS to Windows 8 app development seminar starts tomorrow, December 13th in Mountain View if you're looking to make the switch and you're a developer. Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
We got a message from Pete. He says, "Good day, Tom, Sarah, Ayaz, and Jason. It seems to be Australian Info Month on TNT at the moment. Whilst we have our issues here down under, things are not as dire as you've been led to believe. Comparing our prices with yours, where Verizon charges a ludicrous $199 charge for an iPhone 5 and then $100 a month for 2 gigabytes with unlimited call texting, we can get an iPhone 5, 16 gigabytes for $0 and $99 a month with 3 gigabytes with unlimited call and text. If you bring your own phone, you get unlimited call and text and 2 gigabytes of data for $38 on the same network through a reseller. AT&T's rates are also laughable. It's not even worth comparing. So we're not so backwards or behind in Australia. Don't feel too sorry for us. And just remember, we invented Wi-Fi, and we also invented over-the-horizon radar, which can detect your stealth bombers. There's no fooling a good Aussie.
All right.
P.S. I don't have a pet kangaroo. No, I don't throw shrimp on a Barbie. And no, that's not a knife. This is a knife. Thanks,
Nice.
Pete.
So, okay, we were not trying to bag on Australia. There was just some weird Australian news in there. But I didn't realize that. Remember when Australians would always be emailing in and saying how awful their data plans were? Things have turned around.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, I thought Australia had the worst data plans in the world. Maybe it was just literally on their ISPs. Like they're wired.
Yeah. And
Lines
now
that
that's
they
all
with wireless.
fiber and everything. That's crazy. Also got an email from Jerry who says he's a little behind but wanted to comment on our discussion about allowing devices to stay on during airplane takeoff and landing. He's an engineer at EMC, and he thinks that there are standards that might apply here. The most common are the DO-160 standards. Think of FCC standards for the sky. We have a client that makes electronic portable assisted breathing devices, and in order for them to operate during takeoff and landing, the FAA requires them to meet some of the RF emission DO-160 specs. In the future, I don't see why the FAA couldn't include certain requirements for mobile devices, and if they pass, they could get a special label or code for identification. And if they're worried about people leaving their radios on, part of the FAA requirements could require future devices to include an extra feature that would receive radio shutoff notification from the airplane within a certain proximity if the captain turns it on, and the phone or tablet will respond by turning off any radios. In my quasi-expert opinion, I don't think there's a huge risk during takeoff and landing if the radios are being shut off, since the plane's designed and tested to be immune to outside interference, but I think due diligence never hurts when it comes to safety. If he's right, I'm trusting Jerry knows what he's talking about here. The idea of a phone that's specially sold to be able to be used on the plane and satisfies FAA requirements sounds like an ideal situation.
Can't they just all be like that? Can't they just
Yeah.
make the new ones like that? Super. Everybody wins. Yay.
Yay. Well, I think we've solved everything, Ayaz.
In the meantime, can we just start with Kindles? Because really, really.
But then people would actually have to know what model they have of their phone, right? It's like, do you have the S2 Skyrocket or whatever?
That's what he's saying is there'd be a label on it, right?
So they're going to check every single phone, the flight attendants.
Yeah.
I'm like, come here.
Well, what do they do now? They say put it into airplane mode, and then they trust, right? So this would be easy. It would be easier to tell now with this than what they have now.
You just hold up your sticker.
Yeah. And of course, people get fake stickers, but there's ways to check that too. Well, that is it for this episode of Tech News Today. Molly Wood, a pleasure as always. I've missed you.
I know. I miss you too. It's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
Let folks know about Always On. What's going on with that these days?
Yeah, so Always On, actually our very last episode of the year airs next week. You should watch this past one, though, the one that went up yesterday, because it's a little macro universe of everything awesome that I get to do. Like I got to drive a Shelby GT500, and I got to go watch the SpaceX rocket launch and, open up a bunch of gadgets, and it's a cool show. But so next week we'll have our episode Out of the Web and the iPad mini torture test on the streets of Paris. Then we're going to be live streaming from CES. We'll be doing live torture tests on the stage with a big ladder and a cement platform.
Nice.
Like a cooler and a toaster oven, and also liquid nitrogen.
No kidding.
I'm not saying it's not a stunt, but it's going to be pretty fun.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yes. And then season 3 will resume February 19th. That's a long time coming, but it'll be worth it.
CNET.com/alwayson.
Yes. And also we just launched on Xbox.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I saw that.
Yeah, a CNET app on Xbox and Windows 8, and I think a new one on Android. But if you want to get caught up now on Always On, you can just sit back and watch it all on Xbox Live on your big TV.
Woohoo!
I know, it's super exciting.
That's great. All right, folks, thanks for watching or listening. You can submit stories for our consideration at technewstoday.reddit.com. That's our subreddit. Our open mic submissions are open until tomorrow, Thursday, December 13th. Email tnt@twit.tv with the subject line Open Mic 2012. Let us know who you are, what you do, and why you would like to take part. You have to be available Monday, December 17th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, tnt@twit.tv, or you can give us a call and leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll be back tomorrow with Chris Null. We'll see you then.